How you doing? Carlos Ramirez, owner of NVS Audio in Roselle, New Jersey. I want to talk about lithium batteries today. So I spent 3 years doing some extensive research before I jumped on the lithium bandwagon, and what I was really waiting for was reputable manufacturers to come out with their version of lithium batteries that was safe to use in Harley motorcycles, Victories, power sports, and Slingshots. So the SPL guys have figured this out and they've been using them for years, but it's a little bit different when you got to put the battery under the seat of a client's bike and make sure it's safe, make sure the battery's not going to explode. So there's a lot of misconceptions, a lot of false information out there, some tricky marketing and ways that they market these batteries that makes it almost impossible to compare these batteries to each other. They have watt hour ratings and amp hour ratings and equivalent and CCA. Now, after doing my research, I've literally spent hundreds of hours reading everything that I could and watching videos, so I finally understand how the technology works and why it's so hard to compare one battery to another. So the Harley factory battery, so regular Harley AGM battery like this one, is 400 cold cranking amps. It's regular battery, it's good for up to 1,000 watts. So when we upgrade those, the next step up would be the Stinger Harley-Davidson battery. That would be the SPX 950. It's rated at 28 amp hours. Stinger claims that the battery can handle up to 1,900 watts. Here we like to conservatively rate all these batteries, so no matter what the manufacturer recommends, our rating is less. So for us, the Stinger battery is good for up to 1,600 watts, which is great because that's our stage 3 package with two Evo X 800.4s. So it's a formula we figured out years ago. It works out really well. Once the customer goes over 3,000 watts, then mandatory they have to run a lithium battery. That's our recommendation in the shop. So one single 800 watt amp stock battery is fine. If your stock battery is getting old and you have to replace it anyway, Harley offers a lithium battery. The Harley battery is only an 8 amp hour battery. It is stronger than the factory battery, but is no good for audio because it does its equivalent to the factory battery. It's a little bit stronger, but it's only 8 amp hours, so it doesn't give you anything more for your audio. So the Harley battery I do not recommend because it's only an 8 amp hour battery and it's not going to do anything for the audio. It's just a stronger starting battery. So if you're going to upgrade, it's the same price as the Stinger AGM. Instead of spending $300 on a 8 amp hour lithium battery from Harley, just get the 28 amp hour AGM battery from Stinger. So people don't realize how much more power these batteries give, and everybody owns a drill kit, a power drill. This was the industry standard, DeWalt 18 volt NiCad. I'm sure everybody has one of these in their garage. And as soon as the 20 volt max lithium came out, everybody upgraded because this drill is more powerful, battery lasts longer, and it's lighter. It weighs way less. So people jumped on the technology and didn't even realize why it was better. They just know that the drill charged faster. These batteries charge and discharge. These batteries charge and hold a charge longer. They charge faster than a NiCad battery. NiCad battery charges slowly and doesn't hold a charge that long. So the lithium batteries for the bike work exactly the same way. So anybody that's used one of these drills knows as it's going dead, if you back off the pressure, you can still finish drilling the hole and squeeze every last little bit of power. The drill will just spin slower, but if you back off the pressure, it'll keep spinning. Not with the lithium. Lithium uses blocks of energy, and once you reach the last block, that's it. It just falls off. There is no spinning. You can pull the trigger all you want. That drill's not going to spin anymore. So you get more power. It lasts longer, but it doesn't give you a warning. When it runs out, it just runs out, and you're not drilling any more holes. You have to get another battery pack. This one won't last as long, but you know as the battery's running low, you can squeeze a couple more holes out. So the battery technology for the bikes is exactly the same way. The reason it's so hard to understand, and then the price of the batteries also. I just did a search online and I can get the NiCad battery, brand new, the strongest one that they make, the XRP, for $100. The equivalent in the lithium is literally double the money. It is $200. So it's the same thing for motorcycles. So stock battery you can pick up for $200-$300. You can even pick up the Harley Lithium for $300. The industry standard lithium batteries for Harleys are between $600 and $800. That's because you're paying for the amp hours, you're paying for the extra power, you're paying for the ability to play longer. So now we have, these are the two most popular batteries that we use on Slingshots. So this is a Group 34 that everybody's known and used for years. This is a 1,000 cranking amp battery. It's got 80 amp hours of reserve current. This thing is a beast. It's a $400 battery, and it's heavy as hell. Battery weighs like 50 pounds, but it's the standard on Slingshots. If you want to upgrade the audio in your Slingshot, you're doing big audio, the Group 34 is the biggest that you're fitting in the factory location in the back. This is the lithium battery for the Slingshot, but we'll get to the numbers later. Just look at the size difference. This one's smaller, thinner, lighter, and way more powerful, but it's also triple the money. So when you do the breakdown, you have to be careful because there's marketing. And even in the drill batteries, there's some tricky marketing. So this one's considered 18 volt, and this one's considered 20 volt max. The reason they put max in there is just like a bullcrap amplifier saying max power you will get out of this amp. If you measure, both battery technologies are 18 volts. But I guess to make it less confusing, they called this one 20 volts even though it's 18 because it gives you more power. So I guess to make it less confusing for customers, they just called it a 20 volt even though it's only 18 volts, but it lasts longer. It gives you the same amount of power as this drill, but it lasts way longer in a pack that's about the same size and it's lighter. So instead of causing confusion calling them both 18 volt, they called the lithium 20 volt max. So after doing my research, I understand why they do it. So a standard battery gives you power and immediately starts dropping down like that. A lithium battery doesn't do that. The lithium battery continues to give full power and then at the end drops straight down and doesn't work anymore. So it's not that the lithium battery is giving you more power. The lithium battery is giving you maximum power for a much longer extended period of time. It can continue to give you the same output in the first 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half hour, hour. An AGM battery will give you full power for the first 10 minutes and then it will start dropping off gradually. So once an AGM battery goes from 12 volts to 12.3 volts, it is already technically considered at half power. So lithium batteries don't do that. Lithium batteries continue to deliver maximum power until they reach the lower limit, which is around 11 volts. It's 11 or 12 volts, but it will deliver power for a lot longer. Now this is where it gets super confusing. We tested all the major name brand lithium motorcycle batteries on the market. We tested the Braille, we tested the Limitless, we tested the Excess Power, we tested the Asylum battery, we tested the Blaze battery, the Excess Power battery, the anti-gravity battery, and we've also tested the Shuri battery. Now, all these batteries have tricky labeling on them, and they all have something to try and make them stand out from the next battery. So the Limitless battery comes in at 24 amp hours, but they're the only one in the group that has a BMS built in. So BMS is a battery management system. BMS is very, very important in lithiums because it helps balance the cells to make sure they charge and discharge evenly. I reached out to Braille because Braille's battery is a 30 amp hour battery, the Braille battery, and Braille says they have less than 1% failure rate because they use more expensive cells and their cells are so closely matched that they don't need a BMS for their battery. I would normally call bullshit on that, but we've got a bunch of bikes out there running this battery with 0 failures. So Limitless handles theirs their way, and then since they have the BMS, then there's a little less room for larger cells, so they have a couple amp hours less. The Braille comes in at 30 amp hours instead of 28, but it has no BMS. So out of all the ones we tested, the other one claims to have a BMS would be the Limitless Nano. The excess power Sports Harley lithium battery is an LIS 925. LIS 925 claims to be 23.4 amp hours, claims to have 1080 cold cranking amps, and it claims that it could support 5,000 watts RMS. All these batteries claim, all these 30 amp hours, 20 amp hours, claim 5,000 watts. Here at the shop, we like to call them 4,000 watt batteries. Whatever the manufacturer claims, just like Stinger claimed 1,900 watts, we call it a 1,500, 1,600 to be safe. Braille and Excess Power claim 5,000 watts. We call it 4,000 watts to be safe. It's just what we've tested. We like to give customers the most reliable product on the market. We put 100% full trust in the Limitless Nano HD battery, the Braille, Harley-Davidson, what's the part number on this? This is the G30H. Put full trust in that. And we pull full trust in the Excess Power LIS 925 battery. We have tested all these batteries. We have not had a failure on any of the three brands. On Slingshots, we like to use the D3400 AGM, and we've just started using, for the really big setups, single battery setups, the LIS 5100. It's a super expensive battery, but it has 3 times the staying power of this battery. So they're claiming this battery can handle 6,000 watts RMS, and that it can last 3 times longer than the 3400. So we're going to put this one to the test, but being that we've passed all the tests with the excess power batteries on the Harleys, we know it's not going to disappoint on the Slingshot. So we have one going into this Slingshot right here that's getting Sound Digital 3000, a couple of 800s, a couple of 400s, and 12 speakers. Now, what you have to be careful of is batteries that rate themselves in amp hour EQ. So what that means is it's their amp hour equivalent. So they're guessing that their battery is equivalent to, we'll take the anti-gravity for example. The anti-gravity ATX20 HD, HD means Harley-Davidson, it's a 30 amp hour equivalent. So then you would think that's equivalent to the Braille 30 amp hours. It is $400, which is almost half the price of the Braille. But as you continue to read and do your calculations and check, that equates to 15 amp hours. So it's still way more powerful than the Stinger AGM and way more powerful than the stock Harley battery or the Harley Lithium, because you got to remember, the Harley Lithium is only 8 amp hours. So even at 15 amp hours, you have double the power of the Harley Lithium. But you can't compare it to the Braille, the Excess Power, or the Limitless, because these are 25 to 30 amp hour batteries, not 30 amp hour equivalent, 30 amp hour. So the Limitless, we did the calculations because they're kind of tricky on theirs. They rate theirs as 125 hour equivalent. I believe it because this battery is huge. So here's 80 amp hours versus what they claim is 125 amp hours. And when you do the calculations from the cranking amps and the amp hours, and we calculated that that would be about 42 amp hours. And judging by the size of the battery and the capacity, seems about right. So that's an 80 amp hour battery. This is what we call a 42 to 45 amp hour battery. Plus, it's about the same size as the lithium offered by Limitless, which is also a 25 amp hour. So I completely believe that this is a 42 amp hour battery. So you have to be careful with the companies like Shorai, Shorai. Their battery, the LFX36L3BS12, which is their Harley-Davidson battery, claims to be a 36 amp hour equivalent. which nets down to 12 amp hours. That's why the battery is $329. So there's nothing wrong with the battery. You're getting a really good battery. We've used this battery. There's a couple of bikes out there with the customer supplying the battery, running these batteries. It's not that it's a bad battery, but if a 30 amp hour battery, we're saying is 4,000 watts, then that would mean a 12 amp hour battery is good for half that. So we'd say it's good for 2,000 watts, 1,500 watts. So if 30 amp hours is good for 4,000 watts, then 12 amp hours, you're going to get half that. So we're talking 1,500, 2,000 watts. It's not that the quality of the battery is bad. It's just that it's going to give you really good power at the beginning, but it's just not going to last as long as the Braille, Excess Power, or the Limitless. It physically can't. So when you're shopping for batteries, make sure that you check whether it's amp hour or amp hour equivalent. That will make a huge, huge, huge difference. My last video scared a bunch of people. I got a bunch of emails when I said these batteries do not like to get cold or be frozen. What I meant was you can't charge the batteries when they're frozen. We've tested the lithium versus the AGM versus the stock battery, and I actually put the batteries in the freezer. The batteries all suffered and all lost output. The lithium battery still outperformed the AGM and the factory battery by 90%. So the discharge was slower, it gave out less power, but it was still 10 times stronger than these other batteries. The only thing, when the battery was frozen, it wouldn't take a charge. So it gave up current, your audio will still work, your bike will still play, it's just when it's below 30 degrees, the battery won't take a charge. So I don't know anybody, well, I got some crazy ass customers that would ride their Harley in 20, 30 degree weather. So the battery will give you current. The bike will run, the battery will supply as much current you need until it reaches 11, 10 volts and shuts off. You just won't be able to charge it until you're above freezing. Won't damage the battery, it just won't let you charge it. So lithium battery completely outperforms any other type of battery. It just will not charge when it's frozen. So don't be afraid of the lithium battery. If you use the proper charger, everything is fine. Do I recommend upgrading to lithium if you have a small system under 2,000 watts? You can if you want to, but the fact that you can't leave them plugged in overnight. You have to watch the voltage and be careful. They're kind of temperamental. They don't like to be overcharged. They don't like to be undercharged. The AGM battery is a lot more forgiving. So if you have a 2,000 watt or less stereo and don't want the hassles of lithium, you can go with the Stinger AGM. Is definitely our recommendation. If you want the best of the best and then you're going to keep an eye on the voltage, lithium all day long. If you're running more than 3,000 watts, you really have no choice. You have to go with a lithium battery, or else you're starving your amplifiers current and you're going to get 10 minutes of playtime on your 4,000 watt crazy ass Harley stereo system. So in closing, I've made a list and tested all the batteries. You basically get what you pay for. So if you're between 23 amp hours and 40 amp hours, you're going to pay between $700 and $800. So I listed them in order of amp hours and price. So the Stinger AGM comes in at $300. It's least expensive because it's not lithium. So this is good for 1,500 watts, NVS audio certified, drop-in fit, under-seat replacement, every Harley. So next would be the Harley lithium battery that we don't recommend because it's only 8 amp hours and it's $300. It's great for regular starting, no accessories on the bike. This is a good battery. Next would be the Shuri. Shuri comes in at $329 because it is only 12 amp hours. Part number on the Shuri is LFX 36L3 BS12. Will give you 12 amp hours and it's $329. The ever so popular anti-gravity battery that people buy from Amazon, the part number is an ATX20HD for Harley-Davidson. It claims to be a 30 amp hour equivalent. It's truly a 15 amp hour battery and it's $400. So this battery I say is good for 1,500 to 2,000 watts because it's literally half of what the Braille is, which is a 30 amp hour, which is good for 3,000, 4,000 watts. The anti-gravity is 400. Next is the excess power LIS 925, 23 amp hours for $750. Next would be the Limitless Nano HD with the built-in BMS. It's just shy of 30 amp hours at 28 amp hours for $729. But for those that need the peace of mind of BMS, it's currently the only battery that offers it. Them and the anti-gravity. Braille comes in at 30 amp hours, $700. Then above 30 amp hours, we have the Asylum battery that comes in at $799 if you want the bracket to make it drop and fit under the Harley seat. I was just talking to Dorian at Blaze Performance Cycles, and he's modified his battery to drop in from the top to be a true drop-in replacement battery like all the other batteries, and his comes in at $799. So the two most powerful batteries that you can buy for your Harley-Davidson and put under the seat are the Asylum 40 amp hour batteries and the Blaze Performance Cycle 40 amp hour batteries. They are 10 amp hours stronger than anything else on the market, so obviously they can support way more power. And for the Slingshot, the one we're currently recommending is the excess power LIS 5100. But it comes in a whopping between $1,200 and $1,500, and it is strong. It is upwards of 40 amp hours. So hope this video helps. Make sure you get yourself the right chargers to top off these batteries, because when you ride, the bike will charge the battery, but it will only charge it up to 12, 13 volts, 14 volts max. So if you need to top the batteries off, you will need to plug them in once a month and top them off with a lithium charger. We recommend the charger from the manufacturer that makes the battery. We got some kick-ass chargers from XX Power. We paid a ton of money for them, but they're not little 6 amp chargers. I believe one of them is 12 amp. I'll show you that now. Okay, this is our standard 6 amp charger from Braille. 6 amps. This is the new 15 amp charger from the XS Power. It's the LI 1215. Then we have this bad boy, 25 amp. This is an LI 1225. This thing's gonna charge these batteries up in minutes. So after I run these through the paces, I'll show you exactly how long it takes to fully charge a Harley or a Slingshot lithium battery using a 25 amp charger.